Many of you would be wondering, what is this term kill chain? Now, I know that most of you would not be aware of this term other than people who are in the military because it's not a very commonly used phrase. The term kill chain is a military concept, framework, strategy, or a doctrine, you may call it by any other name, which identifies all the possible structures of an enemy attack. It consists of identification of a target, then dispatching of forces to the target, initiation of an attack, and then the destruction of the target. Now, conversely, the idea of breaking the enemy's kill chain is a possible method or doctrine again, which would then dictate either preemptive action or a combative action. There is one very big reason why I am talking about the kill chain today. For people who have been observing the Ukraine-Russian war would have noticed that in the beginning the Russians used conventional tactics against the Ukrainians. In the process, the Ukrainians were able to inflict heavy damage on the Russian, and for the first 2 months, Russian army could not progress as planned. Immediately, the Russians realized that they had to change the tactics, and then they adopted a kind of a kill chain. It now appears that the Russians are very close to achieving their war targets. The Russia-Ukraine war will leave behind huge learnings for many countries. For one, it has shown that wars no longer can be won by conventional means. And this is something that India should be wary of. F2T2EA is one of the kill chains doctrines. The first two F's are find and fix. The next two T's are track and target, and EA stands for engage and access. Find means you identify a target, find the target within either by surveillance or reconnaissance or data or by any other electronic means. Then you fix the location of the target. Now, fixing a target location means getting its coordinates. Once you get the coordinates, then you start tracking the target. And then you decide whether you want to eliminate the target or let him go. Once the decision is taken to eliminate the target, then you select the kind of weapon that is going to be used. And through command and control mechanisms, you finally fire that weapon, which is engaging the weapon. And once the target is eliminated, you go back and then you assess whether there is any intelligence that is there which can be useful to us. Now, a couple of things you might notice here. Firstly, this is a purely electronics based strategy. There is very little involvement of foot soldiers in the entire process. Secondly, we are highly dependent on using electronic means to identify the target's location, which means you are depending on a GPS system. And today, the GPS system which is widely used is that of either the US or the Russians. India is just about entering into this area where in future we could possibly depend on our own GPS network. The conventional warfare has been based on the doctrine of 4 F's, which is find, fix, fight, and finish. Find, we locate the enemy. Fix, we try to fix their position. This was done usually by tracking the enemy's gunfire. Then you send in your troops, you fight either with guns or artillery or infantry, and then you try to eliminate the enemy by combative means. So the Russians initially started with the 4 F's, and couple of months down the line they switched to F2T2EA when they are now able to meet their war objectives. Now, as the world moves more towards electronic warfare and cyber warfare, in parallel, a cyber kill chain doctrine has also been developed. And this has been done by the active participation of Lockheed Martin and the US Department of Defense. Now, today, the US government is very serious on the cyber kill chain doctrine and has taken up its implementation for their defense forces. Though the basic doctrine still remains F2T2EA, but the breakup here defines more of cyber components than physical components. Now, whatever the components I'm showing in this slide from 1 to 7 are all cyber components. Reconnaissance means you select the intruder, you research it, and keep a track of it. Then weaponization here implies we create malware weapons such as a virus or a worm tailored to one or more vulnerabilities. This is then transmitted through a normal deliverable like a Microsoft file or a data stream. The delivery is done of this weapon through either email attachments or website scanning or even USB drives or the cloud itself. The exploitation here implies malware weapon program code which is put into the computer of the enemy, which then takes action to target that network and to exploit its vulnerabilities. At number 5, we have installation. The malware weapon installs itself through a backdoor and goes undetected. The command and control here enables the intruder to have hands-on keyboard persistent access to the target network. The key is it doesn't get detected for quite some time. And then the intruder takes action, it achieves its goals, whatever it was set to do, like data exfiltration, which means it quietly removes the data or changes the data or destroys the data or even encrypts the data. At times, it could even set up a ransom call to the owner. Now, if you still don't realize how dangerous this is, I'll now give you a hypothetical situation. Suppose that North Korea sets up a malware in the systems of US Department of Defense, and then it shuts off access to anyone who is trying to work on that system, which then means that the entire US defense gets paralyzed or gets onto its backup systems. This malware then sets up a ransom call of $100 billion to be paid. Now, what happens in that kind of a situation? When governments itself start using malware as ransoms. The US Department of Defense, along with Lockheed Martin, have also worked out a cyber kill chain defensive. It is known as D5C: detect, deny, disrupt, degrade, deceive, and then contain. So, how did the US Department of Defense go about, along with Lockheed Martin, to develop this framework? There was a data breach in Target Corporation in the US in 2013. It was a massive data breach. The US Department of Defense used Lockheed Martin's cyber kill framework and applied it on this data breach, from where they were able to establish several loopholes in the current methodologies, and that they have been using to further strengthen their defense systems. Just remember that the cyber kill framework is not only for the defense system, it is for every aspect of automation within a country. It could be banking, railways, metro, power, transportation, just about anything. Just to tell you what happened in the 2013 Target data breach, cyber criminals were able to steal 40 million credit card and debit card records and 70 million customer records. This occurred during the holiday season of 2013. The cost of this data breach, luckily, was not much. It was earlier estimated it costed Target Corporation about 18 million, but after settling all the lawsuits, it was around 200 million. Now, today, the United States is very worried about the cyber kill chain. And if US is worried, then India should be worried much more than US. Lastly, I'll read out some excerpts from this book called The Kill Chain. This is written by Christian Brose, who worked very closely with Senator John McCain. I'm sure all of you know who is Senator John McCain. He was a US Navy pilot officer and he served as the senator from Arizona from 87 till he died in 2018. During the Obama administration, he was the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Now, the Senate Armed Forces Committee is not just some other committee. This committee is empowered with legislative oversight, which means that it can overrule the United States military, including Department of Defense, military R&D, nuclear energy, looks after benefits of the military and other service related matters. This committee can even overrule the Secretary of Defense in the United States government. Remember that Obama was a Democrat while all these powers were invested in Senator John McCain, who was a Republican. Christian Bose had been McCain's principal advisor on national security and military issues. In that position, McCain and Bose were authorizing every penny spent in the US Department of Defense budget of $700 billion. Also in that position, Christian Brose and John McCain both had access to Pentagon's top secret, highly classified documents, and they were regularly meeting top defense officers. In the winter of 2017, John McCain called all the 100 senators for a very important briefing. He was about to break the information that the US had lost the race against China, a race which many of them did not even know that was being run. For several years, McCain had been pleading with the Pentagon to tell the truth to the American public. But the Pentagon was not forthcoming. So then McCain decided that he would then break the bad news to the American people. McCain got the officers from Pentagon to come and describe the war game simulations which they had been doing for the last several years. The Pentagon officer said that the performance of US troops in the simulation has been consistent. It has been consistent to the effect that each and every war game which the US has simulated, the US has lost it against the Chinese. The supremacy of the United States as a military power and a cyber power is ending. The excerpt of this book is available online. You can read it. It gives a great insight into what has happened within the United States. And if this is what the United States thinks, well, what should India be thinking?